it goes right, it's a slice. If it goes left, it's a hook. If it goes straight, it's a miracle. This is Out of Bounds. If it's happening in the world of golf, we're talking about it. Coverage, debate, discussion, pro golf and local golf. Let's do it. This is Out of Bounds. And here are your hosts, Nate Sharman and Josh Durso.
All right, welcome to the Friday evening PGA Championship edition of the Out of Bounds podcast. We are coming to you tonight with a full look back at the first 2 days of action at Oak Hill Country Club in Rochester, New York. We have three guys tied for the lead at 5 under, and the field has been reduced to 76 players. Nate Sharman and Josh Durso here. Nate, an incredible first 2 days at Oak Hill. The course is in spectacular shape.
Oh, it sure is, Josh. And first of all, just been unbelievable. Been on the grounds every single day this week. 5 out of 5 days so far. Planning on going tomorrow and Sunday too, so let's make it all 7. Really been just blown away by everything at Oak Hill. First of all, that golf course is just, I described it in one word on Monday, and I'm posting on our website, immaculate, right?
Yeah.
There's not a blade of grass out of place. And it's just, I can't, give enough kudos to the grounds crew and all the crew at Oak Hill that just make this course in championship condition. You've heard a lot of guys talk about this is maybe the most fun and challenging test of a PGA they've played in a long time. So just a really good kudos to them. Everyone from the PGA and everyone setting it up just has done a really great job. But yeah, taking a look at our leaderboard, let's get into it. We got a three-way tie for lead at 5 under. Scottie Scheffler, Corey Connors, and Viktor Hovland. And then we'll go through the rest of the guys under par. Justin Suh, Bryson DeChambeau are tied at 3 under. Brooks Koepka, Callum Tarrant are tied at 2 under. And Taylor Pendrith and Justin Rose tied at 1 under. For those of you counting at home, that's 2 Canadians under par after 2 days. And there's another one at even par. So you got in your T10 and ties, you got 3 Canadians. So always got to do my Canadian shout out, if you know me as well on this podcast too. So one of them's got tied for the lead, and the rest of them are there. So it's been pretty fantastic so far to watch this golf tournament. And, I guess before we get too much into our storylines, not to jump ahead too much, Josh, but are you surprised that we get someone at 5 under par after 2 rounds?
I'm not surprised, because I think the thing that stood out to me, especially this afternoon, I wrote our morning recap from the morning wave, and the wind really looked like it was setting up to be a factor. The wind was picking up, and then all of a sudden, skies darken. We get a pretty decent shot of rain around 2 o'clock, and then the wind is just gone. You couldn't feel a single drop of any kind of wind, and the rain kept coming on and off. We know we're going to have more rain tomorrow. We'll talk about that in a few minutes here, but the thing that stood out to me, I guess, was how the wind was not a factor in the afternoon like we thought it was going to be. And that, I think, really changed the scoring dynamic, because I think it did give the opportunity, especially with the rain. I think it gave some of those guys coming down the stretch the opportunity to be a little more aggressive than they would have been the direction the course was going this morning, which appeared to be dried out, windy,
right.
And the greens really could have gotten sketchy for them late in the afternoon had that rain not come.
Yeah, definitely, and it was something we've been looking at. Everybody was saying, "Wow, this wind could get up," and I think it was Cantlay who went out there this morning and fired a 67, got himself to 1 over par, and that was about 1 or 2 o'clock right before that rainstorm. And I'm sitting there thinking, Cantlay put himself in fantastic position, because he gets himself to 1 over par. He gets to head out of the golf course, go home, kick his feet up, maybe watch golf, maybe do whatever. And then, this rainstorm happens, wind comes down like you said, and these guys go out and they rip the place up. Now you're 1 over par, is 6 back, and you never know with that. I mean, we've seen crazier things happen that's not that far back, but I was thinking the leaders would come in, in that low, 3. I thought maybe like 2 or 3 under would be the lead after today, and they get it to 5, and you got a couple guys, you got 3 guys there too, which makes an even bigger difference. We'll get back to the leaderboard. Scottie Scheffler had it to 6 under going through 17 holes today, made a bogey on that final hole. Really interesting from Scottie. Are you surprised by that, for him to finish like that? with how confident he'd been. I mean, he went through the whole day on Thursday without making a bogey. Do you think that rattles him at all?
No, you know what? I think this is this almost plays into his game. He never blows the field away. We've seen Rahm blow the field away.
Right.
Scheffler's whole game, I think, is kind of laying low until the very end.
Yep.
And then he's there on Sunday, and all of a sudden he's winning. No, I don't think the bogey on 18 really matters. Remember, he was right there this morning when play started, second round. And, at the end of the day, he's still there despite that bogey on 18. And other than that, I think, my big takeaway the other day from his press conference was his mentality toward playing Oak Hill. He really emphasized just keeping the golf course in front of him. And, he said that 2 or 3 times during his presser. And that's so important, right? Like keeping a golf course like this in front of you and not letting things snowball. I mean, we'll talk about Rahm here in a second. But it's easy to let your emotions get the best of you. And at a golf course like this, you have to keep your emotions in check almost as much as you have to be bringing your A++ game,
Definitely,
right?
Definitely, yeah.
So, that is just a huge factor that I think bodes really well for Scheffler heading into the weekend because, he's just, we watched him, we watched 3 or 4 holes with him today and so stoic, so level.
Right.
And that's a recipe for success in a major championship. No doubt about that.
Right. One more thing I want to talk about Scheffler, though, before we move on, is the pace of play thing.
Yeah.
We've talked about pace of play. I feel like every single podcast we've done, we've talked about pace of play. Brooks Koepka had that legendary line about how he wants to start giving guys strokes.
Yep.
He said it a little bit differently, but he had that famous line on Tuesday in his press conference. That video came out of Scottie Scheffler in that first round taking way too long to hit his golf ball.
Yep.
Later comes out that maybe he was oblivious to the fact that it was his turn.
Yeah.
It seems like Scheffler is that kind of guy that, for lack of a better term, has tunnel vision out there, right? He's not even really caring what anyone else is doing. So it may really have been that he didn't know it was his turn. But just kind of watching Scottie Scheffler these last whole week, for 2 days, in fact, in person, I do think that maybe he gets a little bit of a pass for being on the slower side, not necessarily slow, but on the slower side, right? And how good he is, he kind of makes it work. Do you think we should start having to put Scottie in that conversation of a slower player, or should we kind of give him a pass because he's so dominant, especially in the last year or so?
I think my personal biggest takeaway here from watching everybody over the last 2-3 days practice round and then watching Thursday and Friday play first, second round, they're all slow.
Yeah.
Pace
Scottie
of
seems
play
a little slower than others, though.
Yeah, I
mean, Cantlay gets the worst rap, but I feel like we give this intentionally to Cantlay, and he's definitely a slow player. Don't get me wrong there. Definitely a slow player. I just feel like he gets a little bit of the bad end of the short end of the stick. He's kind of I don't know if pompous is the right word, kind of guy. So maybe that's part of it, why we give that to him more than others. I just feel like we need to bring light on a lot. This problem is not just a Patrick Cantlay problem.
Yeah, I think there have been a couple isolated incidents that have been high profile enough.
Right. Brooks is behind him in the Masters, right?
Right. So I think situations like that have kind of added to the legend around how slow Patrick Cantlay is. But, I don't recall a single group that we watched over the last 2 days that had 3 players that I would consider fast in it. Like each one of those groups had 1 to 2 or all 3 players that, if we were putting a timer on them, I would hazard a guess that they were getting very close to that 40-second line.
Definitely.
So, if say 75 to 80% of the tour is flirting with that number, is kind of in the higher percentile of pace of play, then the tour's got a problem, right? That is, to me, the bigger issue. Is there's just so many guys that are quite slow by comparison to. I mean, Brooks just stands out because of how quick he is by
He hits the golf
comparison.
ball so fast.
Like, he might literally have taken a third of the amount of time that his playing partners did today.
Right. And there was something in that interview Brooks had on Tuesday when he was talking about pace of play. Josh, I don't know if you know this. Do you know the last time someone has gotten penalized for being slow?
I do not.
It came about 10 years ago, 10 or 15 years ago maybe, in the Masters. Do you remember when 14-year-old, I believe his name is Jingling Tuan, played in the Masters, 14 years old?
I don't.
That was the last player that I can remember, and that Brooks said in the interview too, that he can remember, that was penalized. They chose to make a 14-year-old the answer, right? The guinea pig, right? For lack of a better term there. And they just
do it once and never do it again.
I don't think they've done it since then, which really has a problem. I know you've been harping on the drum for so long that they just need to start. They need to start doing it. They need to start. There's a rule in place. Let's use it. But the problem is, I don't think they're going to do it because, they have a competitor in Live Golf, right? They can't make any of their players mad at this point. But they do need to certainly. And I know we've started to get too much on this pace of play issue, but it's something that just the tour needs to figure out. In the PGA, everybody in American golf needs to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, with all of these events, if you're not going to have a clock,
right,
or if you're not going to put spotters out there, rules officials who are running a clock, then and you're not going to penalize, then you can't do anything. But the answer really should be doing something and doing something across the board.
Like, look what baseball's done. It's made that baseball has instituted the pitch clock and repercussions for if you don't meet those regulations, and the games have been like half an hour faster, and people love it.
I think one of the things that the tour might be afraid of with something like that is just the sheer volume of penalties that could be assessed early on, because I am telling you, the maybe one of the biggest takeaways that I've had over the last 2 days is just not understanding how slow damn near all of the tour is.
You got to do it on the Corn Ferry Tour.
It's incredible.
3 or 4 or 5 years. You got to do it there first.
Right.
For at least 3 years, I would think. That's kind of what they did in baseball the last few years they've done in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
People have kind of learned. And then you can get your guys like Scottie Scheffler and them. That gets in the back of their head. If this, in 4 years, we're going to have a shot clock. 5 years, we're going to have a shot clock. They don't necessarily think about it now, but it's in the back of their mind.
Yeah, I think the problem is so pervasive that they'll have to do something sooner than that.
Sure.
I mean, I don't think they can get away with waiting 3 or 4 years to implement a rule at the top tour level.
But then there'll be a plan, though, I guess is what I'm thinking. All right, let's get back to Jon Rahm. Fires that opening round 76 yesterday. Really, you think he could have kind of just dropped out, right, and did not really care. Comes back, fires a 200 round today, gets 9 back in the tournament. So I guess what do you think, Jon Rahm being 9 back? He's at 4 over, leads at 5 under. Do you think he can come out tomorrow, shoot a 65, and get himself in contention, or what's your thoughts on Rahm in the tournament?
No, I mean we just uploaded a video that we shot out on 16. He hits an errant tee shot, pulls it way left, completely loses his cool. We just saw a video before we were coming out here from the broadcast today on, 11?
Yeah.
Where he lost his cool. That 76 yesterday, we've seen him shoot 76s before. Remember he had those back-to-back 76s about a month and a half ago?
Yeah.
He can play really, really good golf. But, man, when he doesn't have it, he doesn't have it. And I don't even think he would argue that he doesn't have it. He clearly was very much in the I don't have it camp today. There was frustration. It was boiling over. There was frustration with his game. There was frustration even, I guess, with the way the course was set up. I think that's a little bit of a scapegoat when you're just not playing well, blaming the course. To get out of here with that. But no, he's not in contention. He could go out and shoot a 63 tomorrow, 64. You could go out and shoot a 62. I still don't think he'll be in contention because if he's able to do that with wet conditions and greens that are probably a little more workable than we've seen over the first 2 days, there's going to be a lot of other low numbers as well.
Yeah,
I don't think that's going to happen, but just playing the game of averages, I don't think he can shoot his way back into this thing tomorrow.
Yeah, that's probably true. He's a little far back, but you never know with number one player in the world, Jon Rahm.
Never can tell.
Let's move on to Mr. Rochester, Rory McIlroy. Really respectable round of golf. He's gotten it to even par, now only 5 back, and he's kind of had an up and down sort of play. He started off kind of rough on Thursday and finished it up well today. Kind of a roller coaster round 2. I think he's only hit a few fairways, which is kind of characteristic for Rory lately. He hits the ball so super far, but not really sure where that driver's going. What do you think about Rory? And also, I'll just throw in this quote he had after in the interview. I think I may just tee it up high tomorrow and bomb it everywhere.
I like the attitude. I think I like the approach, because when you read me, we were driving back from the golf course when you read that quote to me, and it just kind of, my brain just automatically went to, he must be like 3 or 4 or 5 over, and he's just out of it, and he's just saying that just to say it. But I actually kind of respect that, given that he is still very much in this thing. Remember Justin Thomas, I believe, came back from 7 down?
7 down, yeah.
So, he is very much in this thing. If Sunday we were talking about Rory winning it, I wouldn't be surprised. And I think, in terms of where his game has been in recent weeks and what we've seen over the last 2 days, which is just him scratching and clawing for anything and everything that he can get out there and just staying alive, I think that, maybe just going out tomorrow, being a little more free and just bombing it, that could potentially set him up to be able to do some things that he hasn't been able to do the last 2 days.
Right.
Expectations are low. He's either going to get closer or he's going to get further away from the lead.
Right.
But at least this way, it looks like he's heading into it with a game plan that he feels like he could potentially do something with.
Right.
So, I like it. Do you like it, hate it, not feel anything about it?
Yeah, I read the quote, and, I thought about it. My first reaction was, oh, no. Because bombing it around, just teeing it up and just hitting it and just figuring it out, then it can be a recipe for disaster, especially at a course like Oak Hill.
Yeah.
But then I thought about it more. You've gotten a little bit of rain tonight. Potentially going to get up to an inch of rain tomorrow. So you could have a condition where the fairways soften up and, some of those areas do. So being able to just bombing it everywhere, it might be okay. You might get in some good and favorable spots due to weather forecast. But, I get really scared by that. Rory just going to start hitting it everywhere and not really thinking about it. I know he's probably not going to do that. That's not going to be, his focus probably isn't going to change that much. But at the end of the day, Josh, I also do love, like you said, the attitude towards that, to just go play free and see what you can do out there.
Yeah, never know what can happen. One of the funnier stories of, I'm assuming this entire event,
yeah, for sure,
unfolded yesterday with Tom Kim. Went for a bit of a swim, a muddy swim, no?
Yeah, he was looking for his ball right on 6, and he was looking kind of in Allen's Creek there, and he kind of fell in. It's almost like quicksand, that creek, that real mudded area, kind of looking for his ball to just try to, make something of it. And he found his way into the creek, right? Finally was able to get himself out of there, and he's just, about, I would say, from his thigh down, he's covered in mud. His arms are covered in mud. So it shows him on the broadcast. He's standing there with his caddy talking to each other, and you can kind of see his caddy kind of motions towards the creek. Another different part of the creek, of course, a cleaner part with water. Yeah. And Tom Kim does that. He walks right over to it. He gets into the creek, and then all of a sudden he's gone. You can't see him in the broadcast anymore because he's down below the creek bed. And it's just, he comes out and his legs are clean and his arms are clean, and he takes off the shirt that he's wearing because it's wet now because he went in the creek twice. And he puts on the overcoat that he's wearing, and finishes out with that. Makes only a bogey on the hole, which is great because if he doesn't take a drop, he's going to make bogey at best. If he hits unbelievable shots from there. And then he goes in the last 3 holes and makes 3 pars. Has a good chances to make birdies on pretty much all of those holes too. So just pretty cool from Tom Kim to make that sort of, plunge into the creek, if you will. And it's just cool because, 21-year-old Tom Kim, not an American-born player, so he's able to come over here and people are able to recognize, oh, that's the guy that went in the creek, and it just makes him so likable, and I just think he gained a lot of fans off of it too.
Yeah, I thought it was the big takeaway for me was just, chuckling at the idea that he was really shocked that somebody got that managed to be filmed. It's incredible. It's incredible to think that you could, any player could be so locked in that, they fall into a creek and, it's just overlooked. Right. But another story that certainly won't be overlooked, Michael Block, no matter what happens, this is going to be a memorable event for him. It just put this in perspective for us. What are you thinking when somebody says Michael Block, PGA Championship 2023? What's going to stand out to you?
I mean, it's history, right? He goes 70-70 at even par round, 2 even par rounds instead of even par. He's only 5 back of the lead, after 2 rounds, and he's going to be contending for the best finish in a PGA by a PGA Club professional. The best finish ever was back in 1986 when Lonnie Nielsen finished at tied 11th. And it's just really incredible, too, because Michael Block went out this morning in his second round, finished up his first round this morning, and then went back out. And he started with a flurry of birdies, had that going until about the 15th hole when the famous S word popped up, and he hit one right off the tee. Obviously, sort of Michael blocked it, and it had to go recover that one and makes a double bogey, unfortunately, and then limps in and gets in at even par. So it's still a respectable round from Michael Block, but what could it have been if that doesn't happen to him? He makes an even par there, but that's always with golf, right? You can say that all the time. What could it have been?
A lot of golf left, too.
Yep.
It's not over yet.
I would love to see him contend. History says he may not, but you never know. 46-year-old Michael Block could be in contention tomorrow and Sunday at Oak Hill.
Yeah. Monday Q tweeted out a case of the golf one on Twitter if you're following him, about this situation and his career. This guy's career. This is not your average run of the mill club pro by any means. He's played in 145 events in the Southern California PGA section, 43 wins, 26 runner-ups, 126 top 10s. He's come in first or second place in 48% of the events he's played in and has finished in the top 10 87% of the time.
That's pretty good.
This is not your average club pro.
No, he knows how to be there.
This guy can hang.
Yep.
And you know what? I think the even par second round coming after that unfortunate mishap on his 15th hole, that's a good showing.
Very respectable because you make that double there after the shank, and the wheels can come off very easily.
You never know.
You can go to 16, 17, 18, bogey. All of a sudden you're 3 over, or even worse, you miss the cut. Very easy to do that.
Yeah.
So really, really good kudos to Michael Block today.
Rain expected tomorrow. This is the question everybody is going to be thinking about on their way to the third round of the PGA. If you're coming up to Rochester today, is it all going to be played? Are we going to get the entire third round in?
I would think they'll do their best to, right? I don't see anything electrical in the forecast. It's just going to be purely rain.
Yep.
It does look like we could get up to an inch tomorrow. I don't think that'll really affect the golf course wise. The golf course is in such pristine shape that an inch of rain isn't going to do much in terms of how the golf course plays, but making it unplayable versus playable shouldn't change at all.
Yeah.
If it dumps on us in the span of a half an hour, that's different. It does not look like it's going to do that. It looks like it's just going to be a steady rain.
Right.
Of course, that could change tomorrow. It wasn't supposed to rain during the Friday round, not that I saw anyway. And then all of a sudden, about 2:00, the skies open up and it rains. Right. So especially in May in upstate New York, Rochester specifically, things change. Like people change their underwear. Right. So we'll see what happens, but likely that we're going to get a lot of rain. I do think we'll get it in tomorrow, though.
Yeah.
To answer your question.
I think the bigger issue tomorrow isn't necessarily rain, but I think because it's going to be a murky, cloudy day here in upstate New York, Darkness may be an issue, especially with some of those later tee times.
Right. 2:50 is when the leaders go off.
Yeah. So I mean, if they're out there for 5.5 hours, which is entirely possible with the pace of play issues that we talked about earlier.
Yeah. They're in twosome, so they should be fine.
It's a potential that between 7 and 7:30 it'll start to get a little dark out there.
I'm
But
interested why they're out at 2:50 tomorrow. I figured they'd be closer to 2:00. Those final groups.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the mindset is there. It's going to be
sure.
It'll be warm enough in the morning. There's certainly not going to be any like frost concerns or anything like that.
Not like Thursday. There's not going to be a freeze delay, and that backs up tee times for 2 hours.
Oak Hill viewing experience. This is something that I think is going to maybe my take will be a little interesting for people.
Right.
What are your thoughts on the viewing experience?
For me, not a guy. I don't to a lot of golf tournaments. Just now that I think about it, I think I've only been to Oak Hill and back in 2013 and now this year. I think it's pretty good from what I gather from people. You have a lot of knolls around each green, the green complexes, and Andrew Green had done a fantastic job with that remodel, where you can find a really good spot to look at the green. That also comes with the bad spots too, because when you're on the bottom of those knolls, it's tough to see. But there's a lot of good spots where collection areas where fans can stand and you're able to see the greens. Well, I'd love to hear this take you have, Josh. I want you to preface this with go lightly, because if we have anybody headed in their car to the PGA Championship, we don't want to disappoint them.
Well, it's like what you and I talked about, right? It's about the experience.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily, you're not going there to see golf shots as well as you see them on TV.
Right.
Because like any sporting event, if you go there with that mindset, you're going to be disappointed.
Now, the tee viewing experiences, I think, are awesome.
Yes, I would agree with that.
There's a lot of good spots to stand on practically all the tee boxes.
Yep. And I would say if there is a place where Oak Hill really falls short in the viewing experience, it's around the greens because of how complex those complexes are.
Right.
And that just comes with the territory. I think the overall fan experience is second to none. I think overall what the PGA has put on with this event is really, really good. It's almost impressive how few times you're actually getting like bottlenecked with other fans, even though the place is just jam-packed with people. Obviously, there are a couple like high traffic areas where you're just not going to avoid it, around the clubhouse, around the practice area. Like that's normal, right? Yeah. But even just out around the course, it is set up really well. It's incredible to me, even just watching how quickly people move in and out of the concession stands. I know there are a billion of them out there, but to see people moving as efficiently, you literally can get in and out in less than 25 seconds.
Right. I love what they've done. I love what they've done with the ticket packaging, bundling in the food, right? Yeah. That makes just so much sense, You get there and you don't have to necessarily pay for food, right, if you have the right ticket.
Yep.
Your alcohol, of course, is not included, but you want a burger and a water and a Rice Krispie treat for lunch? Nope, you just come in and get it, and it just works out for everybody because they're giving out water everywhere. Everyone stays hydrated and well too. Everyone was staying hydrated today for sure in the booze capacity too, which was awesome to see. But I just think it's a great job of what they've done. I think I agree with you 100%, second to none.
Yeah. Last thought here. This is what I want to wrap on. Predictions for the weekend. What are you watching for as we enter the third round tomorrow?
I'm watching for tomorrow who can do the best with the weather forecast, right? We're going to see a lot of rain, so you're going to kind of have to be a mutter, right? Tomorrow you might get some funky lies too if you have a little bit of rain. So I'm looking for a guy like Corey Connors to kind of try to navigate that as well. But if you're putting a gun to my head and ask me who's going to win the 105th PGA Championship at Oak Hill, Scottie Scheffler. I'm sorry, got to do it. He's going to win, in my opinion.
Fair. I don't think that's a bad prediction, honestly.
I mean, that's probably chalk at this point, but
yeah. You know what? I think the thing that I'm watching for isn't even necessarily anything tomorrow with the guys in the top half of the field. I'm actually watching the morning. The rain will have been really set in for a couple hours as they're heading out. I'm curious to see at that point, the first 10 groups out on the course. How's the course playing? Are guys able to attack? That's going to give us a real good sense of what scoring is going to be like when, the top 10, top 15 guys are out there. And that, I think, is going to really set the tone for the day.
I can't wait to get back out on the grounds at Oak Hill tomorrow. Looking forward to it.
All right. Hey, don't forget, we are giving away a Callaway Hyperlight Zero golf bag. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, or subscribe on the website or YouTube to be entered. We're going to draw a winner at the conclusion of this spectacular championship weekend as soon as the last putt drops on Sunday. But that is going to do it for this edition of Out of Bounds. We'll be back on Sunday to put a bow on the 105th PGA Championship. If you see us out there at Oak Hill this weekend, say hello. And remember, whether it's down the middle or out of bounds, keep on swinging.
You've been listening to Out of Bounds. If it's coverage, debate, or discussion of pro and local golf, we'll be talking about it. Be sure to visit the website. Find us on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. See you next time on Out of Bounds.